Today we're gonna make a tray out of one board of red oak and some leftover plywood from another project. We're gonna try some new skills today that we've used in previous projects, but we're gonna bring them all together. This is a beginner-friendly project that will build your skills on your journey to becoming a master woodworker. Here's the lumber you need for this. You need 2 boards that are 3 3/8 inches tall by 14 3/4 inches long. Then you need 2 boards that are 2 1/4 inches tall by 18 3/4 inches long. And then we're gonna need some 1/4 inch plywood to use on the bottom. First thing we're gonna do is rip the board down to 3 3/8 inches. We ripped our board down to our first thickness, 3 3/8. And then I wanna measure out my 2 tall boards first that I can cut with the miter saw. And then we'll rip down to our second length on the long boards. Our longer boards are, the length we need is 14 3/4 times 2. Okay, these are our 2 boards that we're gonna have the handles on for the tray. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these down to 18 3/4 first, and then we can rip them to our final thickness after that. Next, I wanna rip my boards down to 2 1/4. We got our boards down to rough size. Before we start shaping the handle part of the tray, I wanna set us up for when we put the bottom of the tray. And so we're gonna cut a dado into the bottom of these boards. A 1/4 inch up from the bottom and a 1/4 inch deep. All right, to set our table saw up appropriately, I have a 1/4 inch setup block. You don't necessarily need that, but they're helpful. They're really inexpensive. I recommend as a woodworker you get some. First we wanna do is set up the fence a 1/4 inch away from the blade. And then we wanna bring the blade down, lock down our saw. Then we wanna bring our blade down to a 1/4 inch. Another way you could do this is you could use your tape measure. It's not super accurate, but you can get it close. We cut our dados. What's next? Joinery. I want to do miter joints on this just because I like the look of it. It looks clean. And I think as a beginner, it's a good exercise to try and do miters. A lot of people struggle with them in the beginning. I did too. And so I think it's important to try and get really comfortable making miter joints. Put my angle gauge on it, zeroed it out, then move the angle gauge to the blade and tip the blade over to 45 degrees. I'm getting quite a bit of tear out, so I'm gonna put a piece of blue tape to help mitigate some of that. It should help a little bit. So we have our template glued to our template material. And just as a reminder, I have templates you can download. I can send those to you. The link will be in the description. We cut out roughly with the jigsaw. Next, we're gonna cut out the handle part, and we're gonna start with that by using the drill. When I feel like I'm in the right spot, I'm gonna tap to mark a hole where I want the drill to sit. I'm using MDF as a backer board so that as my Forstner bit goes through, it doesn't blow out the backside, so you won't have a ton of tear out. I'm gonna mark the middle of this template so that I can place it in the middle of my board. Just to get the template where I want. Template's done. We're about to attach it to our material. We're going to use double-sided tape to do that. That way it gets good adhesion. We don't want to break our template. So we have one side done. It's a little rough, but we'll fix it. So our tray is starting to take shape. Next up, we have to cut for the bottom panel. Remember, we put a 1/4 inch dado in there, and so when we measure our area, we have to add a 1/4 inch from each side. So that's a 1/2 inch, right? So 1/2 inch this way, 1/2 inch that way. When I dry fitted the tray together, I just wasn't satisfied. The handles just don't match my style. And so to solve that, I decided to go with inset handles on the tray. This piece of wood is just there for stability for the router. Trying something a little different on this. Okay, so I feel pretty good about that. I'm gonna pop the template out. Sorry, I'm wearing a mask. I'm gonna pop the template out and see how it feels, and then move this down to here. That's where we're at right now. Pretty good. A lot of sawdust for 2 little handles. So we're gonna do a little status check on the tray, see if how everything's working, and we're gonna do that by doing a dry fit. First, I start by clamping a straight edge to my workbench. That way I have an edge I can push everything against square. I'm gonna flip them over now, and then I'm gonna make sure they're tight up against each other. So what I'm gonna do is tape together these joints as tight as I can without forcing them to overlap. And so I want them to butt up against each other. So we got this all taped up on the joints. We're gonna flip it back over. We're gonna fold it up. And this is where we see the tray come to life. 17, 13 1/4. This is big box store plywood. It's really cheap, cheaply made, falls apart real easy. And unfortunately, I got the last sheet in the pile, and so it was pretty beat up. This is the bottom side of the plywood. See, the veneer is just coming right off. And so I'm gonna chamfer that down so it doesn't peel as I push it into the groove. So everything's looking pretty good. Dry fit is nice. I'm actually really happy that I changed the handle style. I like this inset one a lot. I like that it's clean. Okay, I'm gonna just sand with 220 because it's already pretty smooth. These are fresh out of a joiner. Once I sand off the pencil marks, I know I've sanded enough. Plywood's got some cracks, gonna just fill it with CA glue. So we're back at the workbench and we're gonna prep for glue up right now. When you're doing miters, there's a lot of squeeze out that happens, and so you can tape to keep squeeze out from affecting your corners of your miters. So I'm using Type on 3, mostly for its setup time, and it's also water safe. These are frame clamps that I want to try. And since this tray is very much like a frame, I figured it would be a cool chance to try these out. Get rid of all our squeeze out. I didn't have enough sandpaper, so I put 120 and 220 down. So I will do my best to use this, but that's so it'll sand the top square. Before finishing, we're gonna do a quick wipe down with mineral spirits to get all the sawdust that's remaining in the pores off of this tray. And a little bit goes a long way. You don't need to use a lot of mineral spirits. Because this is a serving tray, I'm gonna be using food safe finish. Walrus oil, cutting board oil. And it holds the color, which is super important to me. Just wiping off the excess. So that's it, a serving tray from Red Oak. This one was a fun one. We even had a pivot in the middle of the project because I didn't like the direction it was going. That's kind of what woodworking's about, trying to solve problems as you go with the flow. Thanks for joining us. Do you have any cool projects you did as a beginner? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Take care.